And now I just have a couple of short readings that I've discovered that come from Indigenous peoples. This is an old native earth, native river proverb. Everything on earth is borrowed. There is no mine, no yours, only ours. Even time is borrowed. We kill over a plot of land that belongs only to Mother Earth. All you have is what you came with and what you will leave with, your spirit. The single biggest thing I ever learned was from an Indigenous elder of Cherokee descent, Star Rushworth, who reminded me of the difference between a Western settler mindset of, I have rights, and an Indigenous mindset saying, I have obligations. Quite a difference there. Instead of thinking, I am born with rights, I choose to think that I am born with obligations to serve past, present, and future generations and the planet herself. Now some more wonderful music from Nanauwe. This one is called Indigenous Messages. No, I'm sorry, not called that. It's called Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, written by Lauryn Hill.
My world it moves so fast today, the past just seems so far away. Their lives so tight that I can't breathe. And every time I try to be what someone else thought of me, so caught up, I wasn't able to achieve. But deep in my heart, the answer, it wasn't me. And I've made up my mind to define my own destiny. Oh, yeah. Oh, and deep in my heart, the answer, it wasn't me. And I've made up my mind to define my own destiny.
And now we will have our message of the morning. David and Saskia and Nanauwe is going to be involved here. I don't know where you want to sit, do this.
Do this together, right up.
Okay, okay. And this other microphone here.
Oh, I think it's fine.
Again, okay, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Saskia Vanderhoop, and I just wanted to make one correction, and that is I am not a Wampanoag person. I have lived in a Wampanoag family for 25 years, and I'm a mother to Wampanoag children and grandchildren. We'd like to get started with Nanauwe offering, as is a tradition in our home and our organization, some words of gratitude. Can you hear me, Nana?
Yes. Well, today I'm thankful for Katapatanamu for waking up this rising. Katapatanamu for grandfather's sun shining so brightly and Grandmother Moon. And I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my people. I'm thankful for love and compassion. And I'm thankful for all of the people that came today to listen to all of the things that we have to say. And I'm thankful for openness and vulnerability. I'm thankful for peace and harmony. I'm thankful for Mother Earth, all the animal beings and plant beings. I'm grateful for this beautiful land of Jamaica. I'm grateful for the beautiful land of Nanauwe. And I'm for all of the beautiful lands. And I'm thankful for music and creativity. And I'm thankful for Wami, which means everything in Wampanoag.
Thank you, Nanauwe. Can everyone hear okay if I'm speaking like this? So, maybe up a tad bit? Okay. Can you move the mic a little closer? Sure. Nanauwe, we lost you for a minute there, but we're just going to do the best we can. We're going to move on with my husband, David Niskawankatwas Vanderhoop, for a land acknowledgement, like a longer version of it.
Thank you. Natasuis David Nis Kawankotash Vanderhoop. Lutamas Akunaat Wampanaak. Lutai Akunaat. My name is David Two Arrows Vanderhoop. I'm a member of the Wampanoag tribe of Aquinnah, and I reside in Aquinnah. I want to acknowledge the Wampanoag territory that we're on today, the Wampanoag territory of Nampi, and all of the territory of Indigenous people of Turtle Island, and all of the Indigenous people that still live there. I acknowledge my ancestors' strength, the Wampanoag people still here today, and the Wampanoag people that will be here in the future. I acknowledge the courage and perseverance of my and all Native people in the face of the genocide that they've been through, and some are still going through. I acknowledge Christianity and the church being the root of the American Holocaust. I acknowledge manifest destiny that the Pope spoke and wrote that made my people and the African people less than human, therefore giving the right to other people to destroy, to kill, to rape, slaughter all Indigenous people, steal their land, steal their resources, steal the people and enslave them. I acknowledge the long-term result of colonialism and the power hunger that is still here today. The destruction, pollution, extraction of all of what Mother Earth has given us. and the abuse and ongoing destruction of our Mother Earth. I want to acknowledge the sadness that I feel in my heart still today for all that has happened and the things that are still going on. Oh.
Thank you, David. I wanted to offer everyone just a few minutes of silence to take that acknowledgement forward into your own lives and acknowledge whatever you would like to acknowledge in this light. Can we all do that for a moment? We speak these words of acknowledgement, even though we know they are very hard to speak and they are hard to hear. But as long as true peace and balance and reparations have not been achieved for all people, for all beings, the harm continues. It also serves as a reminder for all of us that we need to activate into true change. And it's all too easy in our daily lives to forget about all the wrongs or to not see all the wrongs. So even although I understand that it's a hard and difficult practice, we do it every morning, at every meeting, at every program, also in a kid relatable version. I want to bring you back for a second to last time that David was up here. I'm not sure how many people were here when David was here last time.
It was on Zoom. Yeah.
It was on Zoom, yeah, absolutely. And he was asked to speak about a couple of things. First of all, he talked about the role of the church in the American Holocaust. He also was asked to speak about, quote unquote, native spirituality. And then he recognized that, of course, and I recognize this too, that it is hard to speak about that in one full swoop, in a few short moments, because native spirituality is practiced in so many cultural expressions and so many forms by thousands and thousands of tribes all across Turtle Island, which is another word for what we now often call the Americas. So in that recognition, he mentioned that in his life, living and traveling through native country, he recognized some common threads that he felt were very valuable to speak about. Some of these common threads were relationality, for example, or you could say being in relationship with one another, or being connected to the earth. Other common threads that he saw were spirituality is practiced everywhere, outside, not just in church or in temple. Or other ones would be respect for the earth, or what Barb already so beautifully expressed this morning, the concern and the care for the future generations. Another one was what he called everything is sacred. So today, it is important that we hear also from a younger and female perspective. And so the majority of the talking is going to be done by Nanauwe, by our daughter. I'm going to ask David to speak first to the topic of relationality. And after that, we're going to go to Nanauwe. Reason being is that the Wampanoags, along with many other Native American tribes, were matrilineal. And that means that the women had a very important and significant role for the reasons that they were the ones to bring forth life, and therefore had the interest of the future generations best at heart and mind, but mostly in their bodies. So David, would you do us the honor to speak and give us a little story about what relationality means to you in your daily life?
Yes, thank you, Saskia, for that. And yes, it is quite difficult, as you may have heard in my voice, to speak some of these truths that come out. But this part of it, this enjoyment and fulfillment of my heart, recognizing the spirit that lives in all things, that I have this daily practice that I do. It's going outside, going to sit with nature and all that is out there. And how that uplifts my spirit. And I'm fulfilled for the day with that notion that that spirit of life resides in me. Not up here in my thinking and in my head, but in my heart. And so I go out and I have these certain places that I sit, and I let the place designate what comes. And oftentimes the birds come. And the birds give me such beautiful gifts. And I'll tell you about this one in particular. Now, a few months back, I was in my house, and both Saskia and I, and we saw this chickadee that was laid out on the ground. And earlier that day, we did see a Cooper's hawk coming, and Cooper's hawk love to eat little birds. So Saskia went out and picked that little bird up off the ground in her hand that was exhausted and dehydrated to a point where it was just about to give up. And so we brought that in, made sure it had a little teeny bit of water and get a little bit of strength. And we noticed it had a broken foot. So it had to, chickadees, they hold their food in their feet, and then they peck at it and eat it. And this young bird, just had enough, and he couldn't do it with his one foot. That's what I'm thinking. That's what I interpret it as. But he did get enough strength, and he was able to fly off. And just a few days ago, I was sitting there in my spot, where I always sit. And lo and behold, here come that little chickadee back to me with his foot still bunched up, standing on his one foot. He came and he landed on me, right on my arm. And the other birds, other birds that were, I had a little bit of seeds, the other birds came up and started taking the seeds, and he flew up right in my arm. And then he waited. He waited for his turn, and he went down, and he gathered his seeds, and he took it away, and he flew away. After months, I didn't think he was going to make it through the winter. But that strength, that spirit of life that was within him said, no, I'm not going to quit. My spirit is strong. And that message to me is that I need to keep going. I need to feel that spirit of life within me and do what I know is the truth. And for the truth to me is speaking to good people like you, relaying that message that the spirit in all things is there. And the state of our Mother Earth today We all need to think about it and do what we can. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Nanauwe, so we'd like to go to you right now and see if you can tell us about what does that mean, connection or being in relation with the natural world.
Well, connecting to what my dad was saying about birds. When I moved to LA, California, I kept having these synchronicities with the hummingbird. And everywhere I go, no matter where it was, whether it was somewhere in traffic on the highway or somewhere up in the mountains or by my house, I had all of these hummingbirds just following me around. And they would come so close to me, like 2-3 feet away from my face and from my body, and they would always look at me. And I recognized that as spirit speaking through the birds. And hummingbirds are said to be travelers who can go to different worlds and different dimensions. And hummingbirds are also the only birds who can fly backwards. And even up to this day, I still have hummingbirds follow me around wherever I go. And also I was picking some sacred medicine cards, which have animals on them. And I was identifying which animals are the most connected to who I am. And lo and behold, I picked the hummingbird. So that's just spirit speaking through these animals and speaking through these beautiful, iridescent, almost mystical, mysterious birds. They're almost like fairies to me. So now I want to talk a bit about my experience growing up in the teepee. And I want to tell you guys some stories about that and how that relates to these common themes that my dad and my mom spoke about. When we were living in the teepee, we were especially connected to the land and part of the ecosystem because we were outside every day for 5 years. All of the birds and plants knew us and were used to us being there, just like any other animal or plant. We had wrens who nested in the teepee every year. And a wren is a type of bird, if you didn't know. And one year when I was about 7, I came in after the baby wrens had hatched from their eggs. My mom and I walked up to the baby wrens with stretched out hands, and they came to sit on our fingers without hesitation. And these were wild birds. This ties back into being relational because when you carry this earth energy inside of you, which was the root when you carry this earth energy inside of you, especially when you're living outside or spending most of your time in nature, animals and plants and all of our relatives recognize us as one of their own. And you are connected, and you are connecting with the spirit that lives in all things. Another story that I wanted to tell you guys today is that we had to make so many fires when we lived in the teepee to cook meals or to keep warm, because the fires that we built were the only heating system that we had. So you can imagine that we had to gather a lot of firewood every single day for 5 years. And again, to tie into being relational, when I was 5 years old, my favorite animal was not a dog or a lion or a dolphin or even a flamingo, but my favorite animal was a snail. I don't know many 5-year-old little girls whose favorite animal is a snail. I was so connected to everything that even the smallest animal, who might be slimy and gross to some people, was my very favorite animal. So to get back to the story, I was walking down the trail to the teepee, and my parents had these huge armloads of firewood to make a fire to cook our dinner. And I was walking along with them, having a good time. And then all of a sudden I yell, "Stop!" My parents looked around frantically, and my dad was worried. And looking over their armloads stacked full of wood, they saw me pointing down at a teeny little snail crossing the path. I had to make sure that that snail safely crossed to the other side without being stepped on by big human feet. I felt so spiritually connected to all things on the land that I knew that I needed to protect everything, small and big, seen and unseen, even when I was 5 years old. I'm going to pass it back to Mom.
Thank you, Nanauwe. Yeah, I remember that like yesterday. And you will probably recognize that when you have or have had little children, that care for the natural world that is so inborn in all of us. It makes me think about that common thread of everything is sacred. Like everything is special and everything is so unique. And also, that spirituality is practiced all of the time outside. Like there is no separation, right? There always is a time, even with a little child and a snail, it's time for worship, and curiosity can turn into amazement. I'm wondering, like, I know that this idea of everything is sacred also carries over between people, Nanauwe. And especially what I would like for you to speak to is, how about that both are sacred or both are equal, men and women? So I'm wondering how that is in your experience, and if you could speak a little bit about the matrilineality of your culture.
So for me, it's very important to listen to the women, because in the Wampanoag tribe, they were regarded as the ones who would look out for the children and the next generation, as Barb was saying and as my mom was saying. I wanted to share a word in Wampanoag with you guys today. The word for woman in Wampanoag is matamwasas, which means the one with the final say. This doesn't mean that men didn't have positions of power, because a matriarchal society doesn't mean that men don't have positions of power, because there were many male chiefs and medicine men too, who had much wisdom and care and love, even for the children, of course, as well. But in the end, they still look to the elder women to approve important decisions, because they naturally have a maternal instinct for the entire tribe. From my experience in the music industry, I've experienced being shut down, ignored, pushed to the side because I'm a woman. When people walk into the room and I'm sitting there and I'm collaborating with these people, sometimes they'll go around and introduce themselves to everyone in the room who is a man, and then completely skip me just because I'm a woman. Like, I don't even get to introduce who I am. Even though I am just as talented and gifted and have just as big of a vision as any other man in that room. But it's important for people to see my vision, because this maternal matrilineal lineage is literally written into my DNA, which means my genetic essence is inscribed to take care of the whole world, all of the people, all of the parts of nature and art and everything in the world, just like each of them are my children. And this is why I came here at this time to Earth with this DNA, to share my gift of music with the world.
Thank you, Nanauwe. I know that we're nearing the end. I would like to see if David has any final words that he would like to speak.
I would just like to thank you all for listening today and creating hopefully a little bit of a more of an understanding of the spirit that lives within you, and be able to share that with other people, especially with the younger generations. And I'm so happy to see the younger generation represented in the back row here. So beautiful. And not to be shy about that, because I think that's, for as far as I'm concerned, and that's part of my job, is sharing that wisdom. So I want to thank you all for listening today, and I wish you all the best in all of your endeavors. Love to you all.
And I would like to thank both Nana and David, because I know that these things are not easy to talk about. Yes, the stories are beautiful stories, but like speaking the acknowledgements, and that is an important part of it, because as we are human beings, we constantly do need to be reminded. And there's a lot of work that we have ahead of us to do in probably a very short amount of time. So for me, I would say an encouragement to continue with the work, whatever it is that you're doing, and to feel that connection to the natural world, and to feel that connection to the earth. And to know that when we fess up to the truth and we dedicate ourselves to create real change, we can create miracles together. Thank you. I have some flyers in case anyone wants to look up Nanauwe's music. I'll put them out here up front. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saskia and David, for such inspiring words. I have one very short little story about sitting on their property around a fire with a circle of women in front of that very same teepee. And we were having some discussion and passing, we had what we call a talking stick. We're going around so we all had a chance to speak. And all of a sudden I looked, this is probably around 7:30 in the evening, twilight, not quite dark yet. And all of a sudden I looked over to one of the wooded areas, and this little baby skunk was walking over towards the women's circle. We all got very, very quiet. And this little baby skunk came right over to the woman sitting next to me, Tara, remember this happening? And this little skunk put her front paws up on the knee of this woman and just looked her right in the face. This is on their land because the animals there are not afraid. They are part of the environment. They're part of the people there. We were just sitting there quietly. I will never forget that, and Tara and I have talked about that at times since. It is sacred land. The animals there are not at all frightened of the people that are there because they know they're going to be appropriately treated. I had to tell you that story because it was such a sweet thing, and I am not a skunk. I'm not a skunk admirer when they're around here in our home, in our lands. But that little guy, and finally he just put his little knees down and feet down and went walking off into the woods. Saskia just remained very quiet. She said, don't keep moving. You know, she didn't want us to throw anything at him. He was just being himself. Anyway, I have a few words and then we'll have another piece of music, Turtle Island from Nanauwe. These last words are, the whole of planet Earth is a sacred site. All people are the chosen people, and the purpose of our lives is a spiritual one. May we care for each other and for the earth, and for everything does relate to everything else. Feeling this oneness, may we radiate the light of love and kindness that all may live in unity and peace. And after Nanauwe's final music, David and Saskia will remain. There is some iced tea back there and some cookies if you want to pick one up, and we can either stay in here if you want to go en masse. I guess according to the city rules, we should go outside, but I think there's so few of us here, we could probably sit. Is that okay, Rita, that I'm saying this? If we could stay in here and have a conversation with them, if anybody would like to speak with them, but there is some iced tea and cookies back in the back. And now we will sing again. Thank you.
Seed to a tree, stone to a rock, rock to ascend. Oh, yeah. Seed to a tree, stone to a rock, rock to ascend. Oh, yeah. Seed to a tree, stone to a rock, rock to ascend. Oh, yeah. Seed to a tree, stone to a rock, rock to the sun. Oh, rock. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, hey, yeah, yeah. Turtle Island, say yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say yeah. My spirit right through the void. My energy will never be destroyed. I'm the builder and I'm the stone. I'm never alone. Nis Kwankwatash, Wampana A, came from the rock. Nis Kwankwatash, Wampana A, came from the rock. Mochiki o Nanauwe, Sukano Nanauwe. Seed to a tree, stone to a rock, rock to ascend. Oh, yeah. Seed to a tree, stone to a rock, rock to ascend. Oh, yeah. Seed to a tree, stone to a rock, rock to ascend. Oh, yeah. Seed to a tree, stone to a rock, rock to the sun. Oh, rock. Turtle Island, say yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say you, yeah.
Walking on the trees, whoa.
Whoa.
Telling me everything.
Oh.
Everything I need to know. Tell me where the cold wind blows.
Blow.
Tell me how the trees grow. Tell
Grow.
me where I should go.
Go, go, go.
I'ma just go with the flow.
Flow.
Conquer the sea with a row.
Roll.
Conquer the air with a bow.
Bow.
Roll the twin and rose.
Rolls.
Over the hills and rose.
Rolls.
Light as red as a rose.
Roll.
I'm gonna watch me
Blow, 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 blow. Niko na hachi matamosas, katapatanamu matamosas, katapatanamu matamosas. Niko na hachi matamosas, katapatanamu matamosas, katapatanamu matamosas. Turtle Island, say yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say yeah. you come from Turtle Island side, if you come island, say you, yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say yeah, say yeah. If you come from Turtle Island, say you. If you come from Turtle Island, say you. If you come from Turtle Island, say you. If you come from Turtle Island, you.
Big up.
Before you leave, Gray, will you introduce yourself, please? Are they already gone? Well, that was Gray, the co-author of the song, who was sitting next to Nanauwe. That's his artist name is Gray. So.
I had to unmute again.
Hey everybody, I'm Gray or the Gray Show from Jamaica. I'm a producer / artist who made that song with Nanauwe like a few weeks ago. It'll be out pretty soon. You can check it out. Is it me? You can check out my music on Spotify or any streaming service or YouTube if you have time. Happy to be here. And big up Saskia and David, you know? Very good people.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Here